Hi, friends. This is Adam Shoemaker, Rector at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in downtown Charleston, back for another edition of Rector's Corner after a summer hiatus. And I'm very happy to have with me today St. Stephen's new seminarian, Shawan Gillians. Thank you so much, Shawan, for making the time. We're so excited to have you join with us in ministry. And would love to use this video as an opportunity for folks to better get to know you. So I wonder if we could begin by having you just tell a little bit about yourself, your background, and what drew you to entering the ordination process.
Yeah, thanks, Father Adam. I'm excited to be here and speaking with you. A little bit about me. So I grew up in Moncks Corner. My mom and dad raised me and I still call him little brother, but we're only 5 years apart, so he's very not little anymore. And they actually raised us in the same neighborhood where they grew up and where I still had a lot of family. So I grew up in a really large communal environment. Both my parents are one of seven. And most of my aunts and uncles kind of stayed close to home. So my friends growing up were my cousins, which I didn't appreciate was unusual until I got older. and also just came up from just a modest background and in a modest neighborhood in a small town. And our parents always raised us to be helpful, and philanthropy was a big part of what we did as a family. And I think that kind of helped me, programmed me, taught me to see people maybe when otherwise they weren't being seen, and to let them know they were being seen. I also grew up in a very religious environment. I felt like I was in church every day of the week. I'm sure I wasn't, but it felt like it when I was a kid. And so faith has always been a big part of my life. And when you put those two things together, that just kind of is a large part of the description of who I am. And ordained ministry has been, I guess, something I've thought of most of my life. When I was a little girl, I would put on my choir robe after church and I would pretend like I was communing my dolls. So always a part of my life. And so this is just kind of living into that.
Well, but you are a practicing attorney, I know. What led you to the law?
Yeah, so it's shockingly similar skill sets, or at least the way I practice law. It's you see someone who needs you, you go to them and you help move them along to the next phase of wherever they want to be. And I was a mock trialer in high school, a mock trial nerd. So just had really, my friends were big into that. And so that's what we did. And I was a part of a mock trial high school team that won the state of South Carolina in 2000, went on to place 10th in the country. So it was kind of at a time when I wasn't ready to commit to ministry. It was a cool way for me to keep exercising those same skills.
Well, on your first Sunday at our 9 a.m. service, I remember Father Will joking about how many Episcopal priests he knows who are also lawyers. There certainly are a lot of carryovers in the skill set for the role. Well, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the role that you have, the status that you have right now in our ordination process, and talk a little bit about the process towards ordination in the Episcopal Church. I think it's helpful for those listening in who may one day hear God calling them to ministry in their own life, to know how we do discernment in the Episcopal Church.
Yeah, happy to. So I'm a postulant for holy orders as of earlier this summer. I'm very excited about that. And as far as the process, mine was maybe a little different than what you would typically see in the Episcopal Church. And that was not because of anything about me, but because of where the diocese was at that point. We just gotten a new bishop, and coming out of the schism, and a lot of our commission on ministry materials just had to be recreated. So there wasn't exactly an outlined process for me to go to. But Phil Linder, who's now canon to the ordinary, was my priest for a number of years at my home parish, St. Mark's. And he said to me, Shawan, you ever want to talk about ordained ministry, you should come see me. And so that's what I did. And that was back in June of 2022. And he said, okay, well, let's talk about this some more. And so I spent time talking with him, went through my parish discernment committee, and they positively, I think, passed me on to the bishop and her office. And so I went from being an inquirer to being an aspirant. And at that point was contacted by her office and did something maybe a little bit different. I did an internship for 6 months at St. Mark's in Port Royal with Father Roy Tripp, who has come to be a mentor for me. And so I did that and had a great time. It just meant, a couple times a month, I was down in Port Royal hanging out with him and the St. Mark's family down there. And he passed on his recommendations to the bishop. And I knew I needed to go to seminary, and applications were kind of about to come due. And so I reached out to Father Linder as canon to the ordinary and said, should I apply? Said, well, let me talk to the bishop. She said, go ahead and apply, and we'll figure out postulancy when the time is right. So I did that, and as of this summer, a little bit before I started school, was admitted to postulancy.
And then for those listening, postulancy typically lasts about 18 months, after which there's another conversation that happens at the diocesan level, and you apply for candidacy. And then after that, typically another 18 months. Usually for priests, this spans the time that they are in their seminary education, which is typically about 3 years. You get ordained first a deacon. The diaconal ministry is the foundation for all ordained orders. You have a period of time as a deacon and then a priest. So it's a really intentional journey that leads someone to ordained ministry, and the role that we have to play at St. Stephen's in helping be a field site for Shawan is an important part of that journey for her. You mentioned your theological education, and we've already announced that you're going to be at Emory University. You've begun your coursework there at the Candler School of Theology, and there are different options for people. There are denominational seminaries that we have in the Episcopal Church, and there are also divinity schools attached to the universities, like I attended. And so I wonder what drew you to Emory as you were thinking about options for your education.
Yeah, so as you mentioned earlier, I'm a practicing lawyer. I needed to continue to practice law, certainly while I was in school. And so that kind of maybe artificially restricted the number of schools I could consider. I clearly couldn't be at a residential school 2 states away, because I live and practice in Charleston. And so when you boiled it down to that, there were a number of schools that I could consider. And I'm a nerd. I like to learn. So I wanted to go to a school that I knew I had a great academic reputation. And I wanted to go to a school that, if it wasn't going to be an Episcopal school, had an Episcopal program that it was important to me. I'm not a cradle Episcopalian. I grew up in AME, so I wanted to make sure that I got the proper formation that's required. I mean, just for being an Episcopalian, but also to be in ordained ministry, and wanted a diverse environment. That's always been a big part of things for me. So I wanted to get a great education, to be well formed in the Episcopal way, and to have a diverse environment. And for me, Emory Candler checked all of those boxes.
Well, and you talked about the advantage of the hybrid program and not being able to do residential seminary education. There certainly are shifting trends in the wider Episcopal Church in that direction. And so I wonder, what does the hybrid program look like for you as you've begun your time at Emory?
Yeah, so for me, based on my schedule this term, 3 nights a week, that's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this term, I'm in class. It's and for so Old Testament. I had Old Testament last night. That is an online class. So
Mhm.
everybody is at a computer. It's not as though there's some folks in a classroom and some folks online, but it runs just like a regular classroom. You know, we're going through, I happen to have my textbook right here. So we're reading through the text, and we'll have quizzes and papers, and so certainly there's no diminishment of the educational program as a result of being hybrid, but it allows that flexibility. I'm in class in the evenings because I work during the day, so it has really it has allowed me to attend divinity school when I otherwise would not have been able to.
Yeah, my doctoral coursework at Duke worked a similar way, and there are so many benefits that we have now through modern technology to help make sure that people are formed in the faith that also are appropriate to where they are in their own lives, and I'm grateful for that. You mentioned that you've already had an internship at St. Mark's in Port Royal, but as you begin your new ministry with us at St. Stephen's, that'll stretch over the next 18 months. I wonder what you're most looking forward to.
Yeah. So one of the things that I love about St. Stephen's, and I'll give some inside baseball. I was asked where I thought I might enjoy my
Mhm.
my field placement. I said,
Well, that's good.
is there any chance that maybe I could be at St. Stephen's for at least a part of it? And it's because it's such a vibrant community. I mean, the
Mhm.
work that the congregation does in our community, it's, again, I'm a nerd. It's a smart church. That sounds weird to say, but it's a smart church. It loves to learn. It wants to learn, and those are all things that kind of tend to draw me out. So I'm really excited about that. I hope I can talk you into letting me do some fun, weird programming, and it would be it would be wonderful if people would show up to those weird programs.
Well, and that leads me to my last question, which is as you enter into ministry with us, how can our congregation be supportive of you as you lean into your discernment process and your ordination process?
Yeah, so I hope we'll get to do some things like, maybe a Bible study. Maybe we can
Mhm.
do just some different things in community service, and so I hope that folks will come along and join me in those activities.
That's great. Well, and we're certainly holding you in prayer, and for those listening in from St. Stephen's, come up to Shawan on Sunday morning, introduce yourself, because I often think that parish ministry is so much about the relationships that get formed, and look forward to having you have a chance to get to know our community because it is a special one, I think, in the diocese.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shawan, for making the time and for asking to serve in part at St. Stephen's. We're thrilled to have you, and we look forward to the months to come. Thank you for those who've been listening into this conversation. I'll be back next month for another edition of Rector's Corner. In the meantime, friends, you stay safe and well, and you keep the faith. Take care. Bye bye.